Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the second part of your PhD journey. So in this part we're going to talk about what points you need to take care of when you are during your PhD journey. So for example, if you've got admission in your PhD, then during your PhD, what are the things that you need to take care? Okay, during your PhD, for example, when you are enrolled in a PhD, normally the structure of a PhD program is like that. You have both coursework and research work. So for some duration of time, for example, for a year or for a year and a half, you need to complete your coursework, you need to do some courses, and then the rest of the time is dedicated for your research work. Even the first 1.5 years also, you need to do some part of your research work, like initially set the background and write the research draft, basically to prepare for the proposal defense for your PhD work. The first part, the first year is quite, I think, exhaustive, because you need to take into account both the things. You are worried about your research proposal. You need to basically work on that as well. You need to have discussions with your supervisor on that. So you need to go through a lot of articles. You need to do a lot of research work on that. And then along with that, you also need to complete your courses, and you need to maintain certain GPA, or you need to attain certain GPA in those courses as well. So the first year is very exhaustive, and the main point here is that in first year you need to put much more effort as compared to the later years, because if you put more effort in the initial years of your PhD, the rest of the work will be easier for you in the at the later stages. But if you don't put much effort in the initial stages of your PhD, then as the time passes, you will get more pressure on you, and you will get more you will be more stressed, because if the things are not on the track, and if you are also running out of the time, because normally that's the scholarship that is being offered, it's also for some certain amount of time, and if you have to extend your PhD beyond that time, then you also need to look for some additional funding opportunities, or you need to look for another part-time job or something like that, or need to shift your PhD to part-time PhD and then start doing some job. So the first year is also quite important. In this year, you need to put more effort in that one, along with your coursework. You also need to make sure that in first and half 1.5 year, you complete your initial research proposal, and you exactly know what you want to do, and your research gap is identified, and basically your path is identified. Okay, what you are going to do, your milestones, and initial all the foundation work is done to complete your the later stages. Like for example, until methodology, you should be clear in the first 1.5 year. It should be the literature review part should be completed, the methodology part will be completed, and you should be then ready for experimentation or data collection and things like that in the later part after 1.5 year. Because at your proposal defense, then you need to defend your topic. So in that topic, basically you need to justify, okay, why you are conducting this research on your specific topic, and how it will be useful, and how are you going to proceed with that. So all these things basically you need to defend in your initial proposal defense. Okay, along with that, basically you sometimes supervisors, they also get you involved in administrative and research tasks, not your own research tasks, but for example the research tasks related to their other students. For example, you might have to guide them, or you might have to help undergrad students, or in other different research, for example conduct some workshops, or then there could be a lot of areas in which the supervisor might engage you. And then administrative, like conducting workshops, or taking the classes or tutorials, or sometimes you need to sometimes also need to mark the some of the sheets sometimes in some cases. But so there could be multiple ways in which the supervisor might engage you, or the university might engage you in also in exam duties, I have seen. You can see at the in the first year, so there are a lot of things. So these administrative and research tasks will keep on going, and the additional one that along with your own work. So you can see there is too much burden sometimes on the PhD student. So if you are spared of these tasks, then it's you are very lucky, because but in some scenarios sometimes PhD students need to fulfill all these tasks, specifically if you are on the funding of the supervisor and you're not on some external or government scholarship. So in those scenarios, then supervisor give you some additional tasks as well. Or even if you're working as a RA to fund your PhD, sometimes you also need to do these tasks as well. So it could be quite hectic and stressful at times, and you need to think about it. So and then just make sure that along when you're doing these tasks, your own work sometimes gets affected as well. So because of that, students who are engaged in these type of R activities or these type of additional tasks, their PhDs sometimes get delayed from the normal duration. So make sure that you manage your time in a well, and so that you are able to complete your PhD on time. Publications. So publications is also another important aspect during your PhD. Sometimes there is a requirement from the university that you need to publish in some specific article, or there is a requirement from your supervisor. For example, they say, okay, during your research you need to publish one article or two article or three articles, and then that could be enough for you to defend your final thesis. So this criteria publication varies from supervisor to supervisor and from university to university. So it depends. Sometimes there are no requirements for writing a research article. For example, during my PhD, I did not have any obligation of publishing a research article or having a publication in order to defend my thesis. But in some scenarios, there I have seen my colleagues, my friends, who are asked that they need to publish some articles before going for the final defense. So it varies. So if you have this extra pressure of publishing articles, then it might be quite challenging, and then you might need to put more effort, because first thing, you also need to complete your research work, and along with that you also need to then complete this article and send it to some journal, and then that journal also might take some time to get that article published. So then in that scenario, you must be well ahead, and you should work in advance, so that you are able to complete your data analysis, data collection well in time, and then you are also able to then based on those results and findings, you are able to write a research article and then publish it somewhere. Data collection experimentation sometimes could be tricky. So sometimes you're not able to find the respondents. Sometimes we have some problem with the equipment, so because of those things as well, sometimes the things might get delayed. So these are also some points that you need to take into account when you are during your PhD. Like most of the time, students, I have seen my friends or colleagues or other people, they face difficulties at this stage as well. So if you are well ahead of time, then you get some enough ample time to resolve the issues related to data collection or experimentation. Sometimes students find it hard adjusting to the new life in the new place. There are also family issues, because if you have a PhD at your early stage, for example, if you are not married or you don't have a family, it might be much easier for you to complete your PhD. Or if you are in your early late 20s, so most of the people, if they can complete their PhD, because then it's much easier to do at when you are in that age bracket. It's much easier to do the things as compared to somebody who is doing his PhD in his 30s or in his 40s, because then you have a lot of other concerns as well. You might have a family, you might have to take care of your kids, you might have a lot of things on your mind, because as the time passes by, you get additional responsibilities. You might have a job which and you are on leave, and you need to report back after you complete your PhD, things like that. For example, it happened to some of my friends who got a leave in order to complete their PhD, and then they had to complete their PhD within that specific period of time in order to get back and join their jobs. Similarly, some of my friends who are in their 30s or 40s, they have family, they have kids. So with that, sometimes it becomes hard to manage all those things and stuff like that. Even I was also married when I started my PhD, and it also I had to take care of a lot of things, and it also put some extra pressure on me, and it was more stressful as compared to somebody like who hasn't got as much responsibilities and who doesn't have a family. But it depends. It varies. Sometimes adjusting to life means like some people they don't because they travel for the first time out of their country, and they're more used to of the culture and the way of working in their own country or at some previous place, and they don't get adjusted. Sometimes, for example, in Hong Kong, if I give you example, the main issue is the accommodation. It's Because we are not used to of because the accommodations are very small, and and also very expensive. So even if you bring your family, you might have to adjust like in small apartments, in small rooms. Even in other, if you're living alone, you might have an accommodation that is expensive, but the space is not that much. So sometimes people get stressed because of that, and the way of living is quite hectic and fast as well. It's a very fast environment, a very stressful environment. So sometimes people get it hard to adjust to this type of fast paced life that is there in Hong Kong. So then during your PhD, because of all these factors, there are some tips and tricks that you should take into account. For example, okay, first of all, your health is very, very important. You need to take care of your health, because if your health gets you get a problem with your health, then everything gets affected. So have enough sleep. Make a timetable. I think just prioritize your things, make a timetable, and make sure that every day you already have in mind what you're going to do the next day. So then it can help you out basically to schedule your activities and things like that. Otherwise it would be hard. And also take good care of your health. Eat properly, eat healthy food, and have some regular exercise. Do go out with your friends, because sometimes the PhD environment is like that. Most of the friends or colleagues, they normally stay in their offices, and they are most of the time in front of the computer, or they are just bury themselves in articles or books, and then they don't have that much social life. So do take some time out, even on weekends, even if it is on weekends, so that it gives you um, basically a sense of relaxation. You really feel relaxed if you go out for a hiking or on weekend, for example, for a day, or if you spend time with your friends, and then you just don't talk about research but just talk in general, have fun, things like that. So it basically helps you to relieve the stress that you have for your PhD. So do take some time out during the week, for even for a few hours or something like that, to talk to your friends, to socialize, and to just go for a hike and things like that. So that is helpful basically, really, because you will really feel fresh the next day when you wake up and to start your task. Because if you keep on like continuously keep on working in front of the PC, or you bury yourself in the articles, sometimes the mind stops working, and then what happens is that even you are just reading those articles, but you're not able to understand what you are reading. It happened to me a lot of times as well. It happens to, I think, every PhD student. So you need to take some time out of your that schedule, and then give your mind some relaxing time with your friends, or just go out and then enjoy in the park or somewhere. So it's also very important to have some regular exercise, enough sleep, and have a healthy diet. And then the fourth one, I said that you need to maintain a schedule of your activities. So always maintain a schedule of your activities, and try to like put more effort at the start of your PhD, so that at the later stages you might not be that much stressed. The more effort you put at the start, the easier it will be for you to like go through the things at the end, to wind up the things. Because if you are a bit lazy at the start, sometimes uh, at the end, then a lot of things pile up, and sometimes you also find it difficult. For example, there might issues might arise regarding data collection, experimentation, write up, and then also if you run out of time, then the scholarship also ends, and you're not able to like get stipend, then you might have to sustain on your own, or you need to find work, things like that. So these things add. So I think it will be good if you just, yeah, schedule activities, work more hard at the start. And so these are some of the things that you should take into account. Also, talk a lot to your family. Just take time out of your schedule and talk to your family back home, your brother, sister, or parents, or wife. So just when you talk to them, it also makes you feel good. So do take time out for those activities as well. And so these are some of the things that I have experienced, and based on my experience, I think you should be knowing, and also you should be working on these things during your PhD. Another important thing is that also make sure you should have a backup plan, because sometimes, like, yeah, the PhD do might get late, so just look for some start looking for some job, or start looking for some additional funding sources. If you are in your third year and you still think that, okay, it will take more time for me to finish my PhD and things like that. So hopefully these are the tips and tricks that might be helpful to you during your PhD. And thank you very much for listening to this presentation. So in the next video, I will talk about, like, after your PhD, what are the expectations, and what can you expect after you complete your PhD.